Hey, how's it going guys? Zuko here, and welcome to the August episode of the Preorder Roundup, with just a little bit of July because I have some cleanup to do. Now, as is tradition after these large-scale events like One Fest and One Hobby, there are an absurd amount of figures that went up for pre-order this month, and I'm going to try and do my best to cover most of them. But before we begin, I do have to state that I'm using my webcam today instead of my phone. I typically record my face with the camera on the phone, but I'm killing the battery on this thing, so I need to make a switch. Now, I don't expect this to look great, but I did try my best to match the quality, so hopefully this is good. If it's not, let me know. I'm down to buy a new camera at some point, but I can't do that right now. I've been spending my money on other things. But anyway, let's just begin this video. Alright, so I'm going to do something I typically don't do in these videos and talk about the pop-up parades because there were a lot of notable ones, and I also want to rant, just really quickly. They do not give you any time to pre-order these pop-up parades. You get 1 month max. So the Gone pop-up parade, the Killua pop-up parade, you just can't pre-order these anymore. And as somebody who's trying to just show you guys what's coming out and talk about them, it's difficult. You know, I have to do these so quickly because I've already missed the deadline on it by a week or two, and that's kind of crap, you know? I do apologize for that. But at the very least, a lot of these pop-up parades aren't difficult to purchase even after that pre-order window, even after they come out. So I would say don't worry about it, but I do want to apologize that I'm never really going to be able to show you everything on time because it's just not realistic. But they made 5 pop-up parades for Hunter x Hunter, which I think is great, you know, but you haven't really seen many figures for this series in a while. We get little tiny figures, little tchotchkes for Hunter x Hunter, but not really any proper scale figures. These aren't proper scales either, but they're at least figures of the characters, right? And I think they all look good, except for Hisoka. I don't really like his face, but I do like his pose. His strut is pretty on point. So yeah, I mean, I think they're all solid. Would I like bigger figures of all the characters? Yes. Some of them already have bigger figures like Gon and Killua, even Hisoka. I think Mega House made the old one. But, you know, pretty sure the aftermarket on those are terrible. So I got some options now. I hope they make Bisky one day because I like her. I would buy her figure. There is a Watson Amelia pop-up parade from Hololive. She looks good. They always look good, right? This is going to be a pretty quick section. I'm not really trying to review these, right? Simon, young man version from Gurren Lagann. Looks great. This is the first time you really get to see his face because every time they were showing him at an event, it was always so far away to give contrast to how large the Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann XL pop-up parade was. Now, this has 2 versions for some reason. And again, I missed the pre-order window for this one, so I apologize once again. But yeah, the difference here is pretty much just the paint job looks a little bit more vibrant, a little more saturated. I do prefer the limited paint job to the standard release. I don't really like that they're doing this, but who am I to complain, I guess? I mean, I'm not buying it, so it is what it is. But I don't really see this as a significant difference. I just feel like one is better than the other, you know? I think the limited one just looks nicer. It's a really cool figure for sure. I just don't like limited pop-up parades, you know? Avenger, Joan of Arc, she has so many beautiful figures, but if you can't afford any of them, I really don't think this one is that bad at all. I just wish her sword was somewhere in her hands, you know? She's just kind of doing a pose. Nice gradient on the bottom of her outfit there. I do think that looks good. Now, surprisingly, we got Samurai Champloo pop-up parades for both Mugen and Jin. Now, these are large pop-up parades, so I already think these are better than anything we've seen outside of the giant Gurren Lagann, right? Because these just blend in so much better with other figures in your collection. The large size is the equivalent of a 1/8 or a 1/7 scale, somewhere between that, right? And they chose a really good pose for Mugen. I think this figure looks fantastic. I think Jin, it looks fine, but it's just nice to get a Jin figure. There was no Fu announced at all. That will probably happen, but it has not happened yet. So you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, but I would suspect that they will do that at some point. We also got the extra large size figures for Asuka and Rei. Now, we've seen these at One Hobby. Wasn't really thrilled at either of these 2 announcements. I think the Rei looks fine if you just want a bigger figure of Rei. A couple of those exist, but maybe you just like this design more. Asuka, on the other hand, I do think her face looks a lot better than at One Hobby, But I don't know, her hair is just still so brown. Am I wrong? Is it not supposed to be more orange? I mean, I have a figure of her over there and it's very orange, but I don't know. That's just me. I feel like it doesn't look right. But it doesn't objectively look super bad or anything. I just wish the colors were a little bit different. Also, these characters have so many figures on the market, like more than you could count. So, I don't know. It's really just if you like very large-scale figures and you would want these two as large-scale figures in your collection. After that was King and Diane from 7 Deadly Sins. I think both of these two look good. Like I said in the past, I like how they're playing with the scale, making one small and one very large, as they would appear in the show. Diane especially, I just think it makes sense to have her kind of tower over most of your collection, right? But I've noticed something, that this is 29,000 yen, right? But the Asuka and Rei, I believe, were cheaper. They were 27,000 yen. So there's a bit of variance in the prices of these extra large pop-up parades. I can't tell you how nice these are going to turn out. I don't own any extra large pop-up parade, and I don't really plan to pick up any of them personally. But if they're anything like the large variant, they should be pretty good. But that is a large chunk of money, so I'm not sure if it's worth it. Next up is Maka from Soul Eater. I think a lot of people are looking forward to this one, myself included. I will be buying it. I'm just not exactly sure where yet because I don't really want to spend that much on shipping, especially when the figure is so cheap. You know, spending like twice the price of the figure just feels stupid, you know? But I think it's a really nice figure. It's got a nice pose, and I like her little Angie face. The style of the show and the manga, it's pretty faithful, you know? So consider me impressed for the cheap budget option. They should make more of these, and I think they will, considering the reception that this figure has gotten. I think it's pretty clear that a lot of people want some more Soul Eater figures. So just wait, you know? Buy this if you like it. Support it. You know, don't just buy it for no reason, but I think with us buying this figure, we will get some additional characters. Maybe Soul, maybe Kid, maybe Black Star, stuff like that. But only the future will tell. After Maka, though, was Ai from Oshi no Ko. I think this one looks alright. Her face is very round, but I do like the way they sculpted her outfit, especially the boots. Very wrinkly, very glossy. And I kind of like that it looks like she has fangs. So I can always appreciate that. After her, though, we had Alucard. Now this has a limited version. And this is a little bit more significant because you get the glasses and the hat with the limited version. And I do appreciate that they made this version of him, but I hate that they split this into 2 different figures. Sorry about that. I would rather just pay an additional like $10, $15 max for the extra head to come included, but they're going the limited route. So you have to choose now which one you like. If I were to buy this figure, I would probably go with the limited version. I just like the way that Alucard looks a little bit more. And thankfully, you got some time to pre-order this one, so I wasn't too late on it. I like that. Following that, though, was a couple of Blue Archive pop-up parades. We had the Yuka and Eris Mischievous Straight version, like the idol costumes that they wear. I'm still learning about Blue Archive, so I don't know the lore, but I do know there's 2 more characters in this set. And I do think they're very cute for 4,800 yen. Not a bad buy, but Blue Archive seems to be really getting figures these days, so I would probably wait a little bit unless you love these designs, because it's really not a bad gamble or anything. It's fine, right? I thought this was pretty cool. They're re-releasing the Berserker Armor Guts pop-up parade. Now, everybody who owns this figure pretty much loves it. I don't think I've met somebody who doesn't like this figure, because it's like the best value out there right now. Everybody loves Berserk. Everybody loves Guts. They did a phenomenal job sculpting this figure, and they're only charging like 8,000 yen, 8,800 yen, right? And right now, the conversion rate is so good, at least if you're from the US, right? 61 bucks, like you can't beat that. You literally can't beat that when it comes to a nice-sized figure. Highly recommended. I made an entire review on it. You probably saw it. That video did really well, surprisingly. But yeah, absolutely. You got to get this figure if you like Berserk. And you don't want to get something like insanely expensive, which pretty much everything else Berserk related is. They also put up the Zod L version. Now, this looks cool as shit. I do worry, though, because the one downside of the Guts pop-up parade is the base. It's not that great. It's just kind of like a little black hexagon or something. And I don't know what they're going to do with Zod, but his stance is so wide, right? So that base is going to be gigantic. I would honestly invest in like learning how to make a custom base for this guy, because I think it might look a little ugly. Doesn't really matter with Guts. It's so small, you kind of just forget about it. But it's going to stand out with Zod, you know? But other than that, again, for 61 bucks, that's a steal, man. That's an absolute steal. You know, I guess it doesn't really have too much in terms of like shading, I guess, but it's textured nicely. The damage on his horns is pretty cool. They definitely managed to like get the character design down at a very affordable price, so I don't really have anything to complain about. I think if you like Zod, you should jump on this. If you do order him though, I recommend getting him from like the global store or a local store that doesn't charge too much for shipping, because even Guts was like minimum 6,000 yen to ship. Maybe even more than that. I had to combine him with a bunch of other figures, so I don't have the exact numbers for you, but it's a pretty big box and he was heavy, and this figure looks even bigger. So you definitely want to think about that before just like going to AmiAmi or something, because you'll likely pay a lot more than you're thinking. And last up for the pop-up parades is a Goblin Slayer large size pop-up. Now he does have a smaller variant, but it's not the same pose. So this is like an entirely different figure. This one's a little bit more dynamic. He's in a stance, ready to like fight. And I think it looks pretty cool. I just really like dudes in armor, especially when you can't see their face. I like when the armor is the character essentially, right? And I love the Goblin Slayer's armor set. So I think it's a pretty neat figure for $61. I'm pretty sure it's the same exact price, 8,800 yen, right? Can you pre-order this anymore? No. I apologize, but somewhere I'm sure you could pre-order it. Again, the flaw of this video series, but I do like this one quite a bit. Any large pop-up parade is just gonna like catch my eye a little bit more. I just think they're always of higher quality, and they're also not like insanely big, so it just feels like the perfect sweet spot for this line. Alright, so let's start the scale section with Chun-Li. This figure just blew me away the first time I saw it. I just knew I would buy it no matter what, and I did. I did pre-order this one. She's pretty expensive though, 33,000 yen. The 1/6 scale does help that a little bit, but you're paying for the craftsmanship. You're not really paying for the size. You're not really paying for like the amount of plastic involved in this figure. You're paying for the work done to bring this to life as beautifully as it was, right? I think, without a doubt, this is the definitive Chun-Li figure. There are a couple of older ones that I think are fantastic as well, but there's just something so special about the way they sculpted and painted this Chun-Li, and they brought in Akimon to actually do like the design of this figure. So I don't know how you get better than this, right? I will say, I think the water bottle looks terrible. I don't even know why they bothered. Maybe some people like it, but it looks like a Nendoroid or Figma accessory to me. Feels extremely out of place. I just don't really like how it looks, but thankfully, it's a bonus piece. You don't really need to use it at all if you don't want to. So I'm gonna leave that one in the box, but she's absolutely gorgeous, you know? This was something I wasn't really sure if this figure would have. Like maybe it was just like a lighting thing, but pretty sure she just has like blue highlights in her hair, which is a really nice touch, along with just like how they did the gradation of like the brown and the lighter browns, right? The paint job is just like, it's stellar. It's a 10 out of 10, 12 out of 10. Whatever number you want to go to, it's that good. I really do feel that way. The muscle definition of her thighs, even like that structure she's sitting on, like the broken down building, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be, but you know, you get to see how like broken apart it is from the back, or crumbling away rather, so that's kind of cool as well. But that doesn't really matter, right? It's there so she could sit on it. The fact that it's destroyed just kind of lends itself to the world of Street Fighter, where they'll just go anywhere and fight, and sometimes they'll be in some like destroyed city or something, or maybe they're causing the damage. It doesn't really matter though in this case. It's just great. It all works. I think they did a phenomenal job. This was like the easiest pre-order for me. I'm real hesitant these days because of the prices and just like shipping and whatnot, but I had to get it. I don't really plan to spend that much time talking about every figure today, but we also have the Shiroko figure in a swimsuit from Blue Archive. This one's real cute. It's really cheap at 14,500 yen. She's in more of like a competitive swimsuit rather than like a beach swimsuit, I guess. It's a one piece, right? It's just pleasant, you know? It's a pleasant figure. It's good small company and they're not trying to rip you off, so that's always appreciated. You know, I don't really collect swimsuit figures, I would probably rather see her in like her normal outfit if I were going to buy a Shiroko figure, but I do like it. It's quite cute. Here's another cheap one. Futaba Sakura is getting a re-release from Fat Company. Now, as somebody who is currently playing through Persona 5, and at the point of recording this video, I actually reached the point where you meet her, could be a figure I buy. You know what? I've always liked her design. I haven't really spoken to her much in the game yet, but we'll see. Now, I don't really have to spend too much time on this one because it's already out. But it's like, what, 16,800 yen? And it's a standard release. So this is like another $100 to $120 figure. And I like this more than the Yamakuni version. You know, whatever her, I guess, Phantom Thieves outfit is supposed to be called. I was never really the biggest fan of it, but I do like her style. This just like streetwear that she's got on. The fashion's on point. You know, I think it's actually a really nice figure, and I could see myself buying it. Saber Alter Baby Doll dress version from Katakawa. Now, this comes in 2 versions if you'd like. One that includes a 3D crystal and an LED base. I don't know what that means, and they don't show it, but it's going to cost you 31,000 yen essentially, so pretty damn expensive. But the normal version is also really expensive at 27,500 yen, and I'm not really impressed with this one at that price, unfortunately. I don't think it's a bad concept. I do like the base itself. The frame is a little weird. It doesn't really sell me on the fact that that's supposed to be like a bed, but I do like the pillow and the doggy plush and the sword behind her, which you don't really get to see too much unless you look around the figure or above it, of course. But I don't know. Just like the pajamas, the negligee that she's wearing, I don't know. It's a good color for her, but I just feel like it's a little dull. I just feel like she doesn't look pretty enough. The hair sculpt looks a little flat, right? I don't know. Figures like this, where you're clearly supposed to like appreciate the attractiveness of the character, kind of phoning it in, just kind of doesn't work. You know, it's just like, what are you trying to sell to me for this much money? It's a premium priced figure, but I'm looking at something pretty average feeling. I have noticed, though, that you can move around all the extra accessories, and she does come with 2 pillows, which I didn't notice, so that's some extra value for you there. Yeah, it's fine. It's not bad or anything. It's just way too expensive for what it is. Cherno Summer Frost version from Solar Rain. I was very surprised when I saw that this only cost 20,000 yen, and it's a standard release, which a lot of these Toho figures aren't, so you can get this like really cheap if you shop around. Unfortunately for me, not really the biggest fan of how this one turned out, and it really just comes down to like the interpretation of Cherno. I just don't see her in this figure, like, at all, but I do think that like the ice cream and the waffle cone, the chocolate sticks, and even like the floating crystals, they all look fantastic. I think they did a great job. If you like this figure, I would recommend it based on like what I'm seeing, but I just don't know, I just don't really see the character when I look at this figure. So I'm gonna pass. It's a shame though, because she comes with a cute little frog, and she's like keeping him cool in the ice. So it's just great, like conceptually there, but yeah, I don't know, just not for me, unfortunately. Shikimori-san summer outfit version. There is a special edition here, but it's really just pre-ordering it through the Good Small Company site. They're going to include a special faceplate, the handsome face, if you'd like that. But unfortunately, this figure is atrociously priced at 25,000 yen, and it's just her in a really simple outfit. Like, I think that's actual robbery. Nothing against the sculpt of the figure. I think she looks cute. I like the outfit on her, but like, what's their problem? You know, like what? What's Miyuki's deal? We've seen Good Small Company make figures that look exactly like this for half the price, or like 10,000 yen less. And, you know, Good Small Company are probably able to do that because they make so much money on other products. But I would say this is like unacceptable tier. Like, that's just way too much for a really, really simple figure. And it's a shame because this character has like 2 figures at this point. And I have to imagine the Prisma Wing figure is going to cost so much money just because that's the company. They always make everything so expensive. So it just seems like the fans of this character can't win right now. It seems like Miyuki, like every single figure that they make is just like astronomically priced these days. So I'm gonna be honest, I feel like they're not gonna be sticking around that long if they keep this up. Just a prediction though. Real quick, Enso Toys Yuna cow bikini version, very self-explanatory, well-endowed cowgirl with a face mask. You can't seemingly take the face mask off, so I hope you like the look. I usually do, and I do like it on this figure, so that's fine. Butterfly tattoo up here in case you didn't realize that. And I do like her two-tone hair of like purple and pink. This one is 22,500 yen for a 1/6 scale. Not too bad, though I don't know if this company's quality is worth that. So keep your eye out on this one if you're down with the design. I do like the cow print leggings more than the bikini for some reason. It looks cool, but I'm probably not gonna get it or anything. Next up is this awesome power figure. I really like the design of this one, but she is just way too expensive at 29,000 yen. Unfortunately, I just don't really think Fat Company delivers that type of quality, but they're always asking prices like that. Now, if they do deliver on this prototype, then this is a sick-ass figure. And it really just comes down to the fact that they like really brought power to life with this expression. I would argue that this is probably the most like in-character power figure we've gotten so far, just in terms of like her face, and the pose is great too. She's very arrogant. And I love the base on this figure. They really did something special here. It's just so different, you know, the big giant letters spelling out her name and the blood spikes kind of keeping him up and poking all over the place, and Meowie is hanging off of one of them. It's just like a treat to look at the way I see it. And, you know, if it was cheaper, I would be down, but it's just not. So I'll keep my eye out on it. I already have like 2 powers pre-ordered already. I really don't need to like keep buying figures of her. As much as I love power, I don't really plan to do that, but we'll see. I still don't even have a Denji figure on pre-order. So I'm just waiting for a company to make something that I really like of him. But good shit. You know what? Cool ass figure. Fix your prices, please. So I was going to talk about a different figure next, but this is like the perfect segue, right? I got to take this opportunity. This is the Denji and Pochita scale from S-Fire. And it's another instance of a company asking a little bit too much money for what they're offering, 22,000 yen. I don't think that's the worst price tag, but it's also an exclusive, and it's really simple, right? I think closer to like 17,000 would have been perfect for this. I mean, maybe a little too much, but he's got a chainsaw, he's got Pochita with him, he's got some nice sneakers, there's some detail in this figure. Unfortunately, though, they kind of ruined this one. Because if you're aware of Chainsaw Man, if you follow the manga, if you follow the anime, you might know that this figure is based off of Fujimoto artwork. And they just kind of ruined the figure by changing the expression completely. I don't know why you would take this like fierce demonic smile that Denji's got. I'm okay with them changing Pochita. I don't think it makes or breaks the scale, but I gotta say this is an adorable look for him, but it's okay if it's not there. Denji, on the other hand, I mean, once you see that art, it's just like night and day, man. Like, what's the point? Like, why? Why didn't you just copy it? You know, just copy the homework. You don't even have to worry about cheating. You're working with the IP. It would be fine if it looked exactly the same, but it don't. So unfortunately, I think this one is a skip. If it bargain binned, maybe I would pick it up, because I am, again, like I said earlier, down to own a Denji figure, but not at this price point. All right, next up is the Nezuko Kamado Mugen Train version. Just like her brother, this is a very expensive figure at 85,000 yen. And because of that, I don't think a ton of people are super interested in it. It's a shadow box figure, and it has like a lighting gimmick. They're playing with the perspective, and it's a visual treats. So, you know, just like designing this properly probably takes a lot more man hours than a typical just like 1/8, 1/7 scale figure of a character standing around. I get it. I do get it. Way too expensive for me, but it does look kick-ass, right? And I didn't use that terminology because she's kicking the shit out of some like demonic goo on the train. That is definitely the best part of this figure, the impact of the guts just like blowing out of the frame. That's actually awesome. And I also love like the smear and the effect piece for the kick itself. It really does come together to make something rather spectacular. The guts are nice and glossy to make them look real gooey and slimy, right? I think this is technically like the best looking Nezuko, but you have to pay a premium to get it, so it's a little unfortunate for that. But yeah, you know what? They should probably just like make a cheap version of this with just the character, just Nezuko or Tanjiro. just doing their attacks. I think those would sell, but this is something a little more unique, right? Yeah, it's really cool. It's definitely something that you have to like properly plan out for your room. You have to have like a real optimal place to set it up and make sure it's lit properly. Even though it has a lighting gimmick, you got to make sure the light is coming in from the front. Otherwise, it's just gonna look real dull. But pretty phenomenal. Nezupoyo Pop Girl number 1. Now I think this is one of the standouts of the month. I'm not exactly sure who Tricked is, but I could tell you that Mika Picasso, the character designer of this little mouse girl, is great. Love her work. Sei Shonagon, you got Bales from Hololive. I really do like her character designs, and this mouse is no different. Now, it's really out there in terms of just like what you're looking at, right? Because she's got a bunch of text all over her hair. I love the gradient on the back. It's a shame you don't really get that from the front. But yeah, it's just so different. She's really covered in like primary colors of, red, blue, and yellow, like on the jacket, the popcorn on the bottom of the base. Before I get there, her eyes look phenomenal. She's got a great face. But you move down, you get some very colorful popcorn, a little cute mouse down there. The cheese is also primary colors, right? Also, she's got popcorn on her tail, and I think that's fun. So, this is a great design overall. It's only going to cost you 20,000 yen, so it's a steal as well, assuming they deliver on the product. I just wish I knew if they could deliver on the product, because I have no idea at all who this company is. But hopefully it turns out well. Hitori from Bocchi the Rock. This one is a 1/7 scale at 15,800 yen. A simple figure, but a great price. Good small company, knows how to win us over. Now, I'm going to be honest. I like this way more than I thought I would. And I don't know why. It's really hard to put into words because there's definitely more interesting, more expressive, more dynamic figures of Hitori out there right now. Even some of the prize figures are doing more with this character than this figure is technically. But there's something about it that I really like, I love how bright pink her hair is, how it differentiates from the pink used for the tracksuit. The way they sculpted the bag looks so realistic. I don't understand how it looks this good. And they're only charging like $100 for this figure. It's kind of crazy. I think her eyes are really pretty, and the expression too. I think it all just really comes together to make something that I feel is kind of special. I'm struggling to think of how to put this, but there's something about this Hitori figure that feels more in character than any of her other figures. And that's probably weird for you to hear, because a lot of them are very fun and goofy and expressive, but those are almost like the best of moments. This feels like when the camera's off. We know Hitori is very shy and meek and quiet, and some of those other figures do show that side of her, but not in a grounded way like this, right? I just think this looks exactly how she would appear if she was walking around her town. I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking this way because I'm looking at a bunch of photoshopped images of her outside, but I feel like they're trying to invoke something out of me, and I like this approach. I feel like I could talk about this for a while, but I think I should write down my feelings next time, or my thoughts, because it's just not really coming to me in the most coherent way. But I do like this figure. I might get it. Certainly cheap enough, so yeah, I'll probably get it. Alright, next up we got Shirayuki Himeji from Kadokawa, an unbeatable special figure. Whatever you say. This one is going to cost you 36,000 yen. It is a 1/6 scale, but I do feel like that's a bit much. I will admit, I do think the sculpts, or rather the paint, does look a little bit above the average for Kadokawa. And she is a very curvaceous character, and her underwear are very tiny, so you get a nice butt sculpt on this figure. But I gotta say, the base on this figure, I think it's kind of gross. Maybe gross is the wrong word. It's just not appealing. I don't know, the trolley looks kind of ugly, and the mirror base, I really don't like mirror bases. That's a personal thing. But I just find this entire setup very unappealing. Maybe if I liked the color of her outfit more, I would be feeling a little bit differently. But I'm just not really in love with anything outside of, like, I guess the character design itself, the cute cat girl thing going on. But I don't know. I think it's a little bit too much money. And any amount of cake is not really worth that much. The little kitty teapot is a plus, though. I think I said that last time. I do like that, but it just feels so out of place considering how dull and lifeless the rest of the trolley and the base are, so, I don't know. Not for me. AK-12 from Girls Frontline. This is a Fad Company figure, and one that we've seen a couple of times at this point, so I'll keep it brief. This is going to cost you 29,800 yen, which is very expensive, but we have learned a couple of things at this point. She comes with a second faceplate, the Deep Computing Mode, which I do like. It's like her analyzing the battlefield, right, making sure things go according to plan. It's very different from her more serene faceplate. So just having two very different expressions for a figure is always a plus. And you can actually take off the cloak if you don't like it. I do, so I would probably leave it on if I were to purchase this, but the option's there, and I do think she looks great either way you display her. You also can display her without the assault rifle if you don't want to, but again, I like the complete look that this figure has when everything is set up, so that's just my preference. It really is a nice figure, but damn, everything's so expensive these days. Ronka Lee Anniversary Stage version. This is from Macross Frontier, and is basically a companion figure to go alongside the Cheryl Gnome figure, which went up for pre-order about a month or two ago. I can't really remember at this point. But they're both very fun, colorful, and festive figures. I think they did a wonderful job sculpting these two, and I like their approach to each. They're very similar thematically, but their outfits are completely different, and the spectrum of colors are also quite unique to themselves as well. I will say, looking at these two figures side by side, I'm kinda leaning towards liking Ronka's figure just a tad more. And it really just comes down to the fact that I like her more livelier expression. I think the cutesy approach of her outfit is just more appealing to me in this instance for whatever reason than Cheryl's more like sexy design. And I love the colors. They're very Brazilian. And I really like the approach they took with the translucent pieces in the back of the dress. Not that there's anything wrong with that big translucent piece for Cheryl, but I just really like how clean and colorful it looks back here. Not that you get to see that all the time, but it matters, you know? It's the whole thing you're judging, and I really, really like this design on Ronka. So, yeah, it's another really expensive figure, though. This one's going to cost 36,000 yen, but the work is there. I can understand this one being on the pricier side for sure, so for once it doesn't bother me. Hatsune Miku Happy 16th Birthday version. This is our big Miku figure for the month, and it's going to cost you 29,390 yen. A very specific price point because they love that number for Miku. Now, I'm kind of surprised that this doesn't cost more, but I do think that price point does reflect the fact that the wings are essentially one color. I don't think it's lazy. It's very purposeful because this is what the original illustration looks like. But for sure, this would cost way more if they actually had to paint every individual part of this figure with their original, I guess, real-world colors, right? But that's not the case. Artist's intention and whatnot. So, I get it. It looks clean, for sure. I like the fact that we get to see this wing more clearly for the first time. All the paint supplies, the brushes over here, the alligator clips, the airbrush. I think that's pretty fun. Everything else about this figure holds up. Still a beautiful sculpt for Miku. I like her slightly more frilly design, but it's still holding true to her original look, right? It doesn't deviate too far. It still feels like the classic Miku, but with a slight twist. And like I said last time, I really like how this figure's intended viewing angle is turned to the side, not necessarily viewing the person who bought it. It just makes this whole piece feel a little bit more emotional, like it has a greater meaning behind it. And as an extra bonus, you still get this really nice side view of the wings, and her twin tails look great from this angle. You still get to see the emotion on her face, but you really could view this from whatever angle you like. She looks beautiful no matter what, but I think the intentions are to view her in this perspective, so I do like this approach quite a bit. And one other thing before I move on, I just noticed that the violin, it only really seems like the violin is like translucent plastic. I don't know why that is. Maybe some other pieces are as well. You can even tell here that it's translucent. So there might be some more variants mixed in that I can't tell. So look forward to that if you buy the figure. Notori Sana Birth of King Sana version. This is just like Max Factory firing off on all cylinders. They were told to make the most elaborately cute figure they could, and I think they accomplished that goal. I think everything about this figure looks adorable. The expression, the pose, the colors. I think there's a bit of like clutter to the base, right? But it does lend itself to the royal aspect of this figure. Her fans, or maybe even her servants if she's a king, just adore her so much that they want to give her as much as possible, right? So that, along with the robe and the crown, just make her feel a little bit more powerful, I suppose. I think that's the angle they're going for here. This is a very intricate figure. There's pretty much something to appreciate at every single angle you look at it. All the little animals on the chair and the bottom of the base. You have this really elaborate cake, like they did not need to go this hard, but they did. And I gotta say, her eye decals look fantastic. You don't really get to appreciate them until you look at this photo. Like, the colors are starting to hit the eyebrows. I really like how they handled her face here. Absolutely adorable. If this didn't cost 42,000 yen, I would consider it, but I've never watched this VTuber before, and I feel like that's a little bit too much money to spend on something I know nothing about. But easily one of the best figures I've seen on this, like, Good Smile Company page today. Alright, let's do freeing next. I don't think there's anything too noteworthy this time around. I'm surprised there's not more, considering how much time there was between the last video and this one. But first up, Gretel the Witch from Girls Frontline. I do like this design. I like some of the finer details, like the little flowers in her hair and the eyeballs underneath the skirt. And the wardrobe malfunction is pretty appealing to look at on her, but 50,000 yen, not a cheap figure at all, but a design that I do like. There is the Mitsuri figure from Demon Slayer. Now this one's a little unique because you could actually opt in or out for the effect pieces on the base itself. Now, if you want the effect pieces, 55,000 yen. If you don't want them, 44,000 yen. Still a very expensive figure, but I do really appreciate that they give you the option for once, because they typically don't. Now, unfortunately, I don't really like this interpretation of Mitsuri. I feel like it doesn't look like her. Her face looks a little unhinged, a little off. I don't really find her pretty on this figure. The other thing that kind of bugs me is that I feel like she looks really tall on this figure. A lot of these Demon Slayer characters, especially the girls, I feel like a lot of them are shorts. The main three characters look very short, but her legs look very long here. Her torso is a bit lengthier than what I'm used to seeing. I could be wrong on this, but it just doesn't look quite right to me. So I'm a little bothered by it. I think they've done better figures for Demon Slayer. I wish I liked this one a little bit more. But again, I do appreciate the fact that they're letting you not buy effect pieces for once. Shuvi bunny version from No Game No Life. Now, because she is like a robot girl or an android, I don't remember the exact terminology to use here, but because of that, there's a lot of mechanical detail in this figure, which just makes for a more elaborate sculpt than most freeing figures, because typically we're dealing with human characters, right? Ultimately, I do think that this makes for a more, like, interesting figure to look at, and I like the details quite a bit, you know? The plugs that are coming out of the tail, she has, like, a cyber wing, the plating on the shoulder, her arms have some, like, line tracing to them. Most of this gallery just wants to focus on her butt, but trust me, a lot of that stuff I just said is on this figure, and she also has that, like, staple rainbow hair that most No Game No Life figures do. Looks a little chunky, if I'm being honest. Not that the sculpt is bad, but maybe the strands are a bit too thick for my liking, mostly down here, but it's fine. Doesn't look bad at all. She's going to cost you 44,000 yen, which is pretty expensive, but they're trying. At least they're trying with this sculpt, but she's also a pretty small character, so it does kind of even out to probably being too much money. We're also getting this Gibral shampoo version. It's also going to cost you 44,000 yen. I don't really like this one from a conceptual standpoint, or really just like the details. The wings have like literally no shading on them, and they're front and center, so I just think this figure falls a little flat when you just look at it. Her skin looks fine, her hair looks good, but I don't know, I just really don't like how little effort they put into the wings, and the whole like soap hose just kind of like groping the character. It doesn't really do anything for me. So I would personally say her bunny figure is just better. Toka Yatogami is getting a bunny figure. This is a pretty simple design, but it's nice, you know? There's nothing to really complain about. I do like the choice of like dark blue for the bunny suit, and it's got the Data Live art style, so I'm not really seeing anything negative about this figure. It's just not super exciting, I guess, but that's fine. Freeing is releasing a new Hatsune Miku bunny figure. Not her first, but a different design altogether. I quite like the look, the monotone colors, the triangle designs of the outfit, especially around her waist and her shoulders here. And the asymmetrical design of the sleeves, like up top, is quite appealing as well. I also like that she's playing around with her hair, but I will say it's kind of weird how she's got her hand out like this, but she's not holding anything. I guess you kind of assume that she's pointing you in the right direction or like leading you somewhere, but I kind of wish she just had like a tray or like a drink in her hand or something. That would have made more sense, but maybe I'm overthinking things. It's quite nice though. It's going to cost you 44,000 yen. That's the Miku tax, that's the twin tail tax. I don't think it's unreasonable when you compare it to the basic freeing figure, but it is a lot of money. And last up for freeing this month was Belial Bunny version, the Demon Lord of Envy. Now this is part of a set. I don't remember if I talked about Mammon recently. I might have, but memory is a little hazy at this point, so you're looking at her figure right now. Personally, not the biggest fan of her figure just because of her expression. It's a really generic, just like, smile. I don't know, a little too basic for me, but I do like the angle that they went with Belial here. And I think her pose is absolutely ridiculous, but in a good way. She is certainly very flexible, and I like that she's showing it off, essentially. All of these characters, I'm pretty sure, are very voluptuous. Kind of surprised that these are not cast off, just considering the type of figures these are, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe you can force cast them, but I don't really like destroying figures, so I wouldn't recommend that. This one is 39,600 yen. And I don't know, I feel like this looks like it's worth more money, but technically there's really not anything extra here besides a bigger bust and some demon horns. So I guess, I don't know, it just looks better to me than most of the other freeing figures today. But yeah, that's it. Let's move on. Okay, before we move on to the AmiAmi section in this video, let's talk about a couple of exclusive figures, mostly found on the Aniplex store, but I've also got a couple from Prime One Studio store as well, and you can probably guess which ones those are. But before we get there, Muichiro from Demon Slayer is up for pre-order. I just like the commitment to all the mist, showing off his abilities, and like I said last time, I really like the swing, kind of carrying some of the mist, just to make the slash more convincing, right? I think it's pretty cool. Now, I do think his face looks a little bit strange, and his lips are really pronounced in these photos. I don't remember them looking that way at One Fest. But I don't know if it's a deal breaker. It's really not that bad. I think the figure looks fine from most angles. 22,000 yen though really isn't that bad. I thought this would have been way more considering how much mist is on this figure, but I'm surprised. Not too bad of a price. Next up is this Smug Ryza, which is on the rise now. We're getting more Smug Ryza figures. This one's a little strange to me though. I like the expression. She's just kind of like leaning against a fence. Kind of like tired, stretching right, but I don't know. I definitely like the Aniplex version a little bit better. Outside of the fact that you get her staff, I think the staff looks great. I like the little birds inclusion too. And it's another 22,000 yen figure, so the price, again, considering that you're getting a decently sized base with this one, I think is fairly priced, as long as you don't pay too much for trying to get this through, I guess, the Aniplex store or some other store that carries these figures. I think Otaku Mode does it for not too much of a markup, so maybe that's your best bet. 2B is getting a new figure. This one is based off of the anime, and it's going to cost you 26,000 yen or 18,000 yen. There are actually two versions of this figure, one with the elaborate base and one without. She kind of looks like she's floating here. It's a little strange how they did this, but essentially if you want to save some money, you could just not get the base. But I gotta say, this base is pretty sick. I feel like if you were a fan of Nier Automata or 2B, you would probably want the full package, right? Just having like the aftermath of a battle with a bunch of the machines and having the pod alongside her, I think makes for a pretty sick setup. Feels very complete. I like having that little piece of the world of Nier within the sculpt, right? I'm not sure how much I like the anime's art style compared to, I guess, the games. They're not super different or anything. I think this looks pretty good. Flair's figure is probably a bit prettier, but that's also a bit of a deviation from the original art style, right? At this point, there's like 4 different art styles for this game, so I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter at this point. Just pick whichever one you like the most. But I do think it's a pretty damn cool figure. And I do think if you like it, you should probably get the big base. Alright, so moving on to Prime 1 Studio, we have the Kate and Emilico figure from Shadow's house. And this one's going to cost you $1,000. I don't think anybody saw this coming. And I would love to just like make a little bit of an outrage about this, but I might have spent more than that on the next figure announcement, so yeah. I won't worry about that right now, but I think a lot of people are priced out on this figure, and it's a shame, you know? This is a collaboration, apparently, between Prime 1 and Prisma Wing, even though I'm pretty sure Prisma Wing is owned by Prime 1, so I guess they're just getting extra members of staff to help out. But either way, this figure's not super big or anything. It is a 1/7 scale, which I think really does hurts that price tag. I don't think a lot of people are going to be very happy to pay $1,000 for a 1/7 scale, but clearly the work is put in. I will say that I don't think Emilico is as cute as I was hoping on this figure. She's like an absolutely adorable, precious character, but I feel like I've seen better. It's fine. It's not offensive or anything, but considering the amount of money, I would want it to be perfect, right? Kate, really hard to mess up Kate. You would literally have to try. So she looks good. And of course, her like checkerboard staircase half is just incredible to look at. There's a lot of these like little shadow cuties. I didn't even notice this the first time I looked at this figure. There's one stuck on the top of the staircase there. It's very cute stuff. And then you just get to see a bunch of like furniture and stationery and just like random assorted items from the house just falling everywhere. And this one curved portrait I always thought was neat, just kind of like warping alongside the rest of the staircase. However, they're managing to make sure this doesn't break over time. Like just having a character upside down is a little terrifying. But I guess it just has to be like bolted down on there and they have to use like really strong supports. Whatever the case may be. This is like a dream figure. I don't think Shadow's house necessarily is going to pull a lot of people in to pay the price tag, but it's real special, you know? I think anybody would love to own a figure like this, but it's just a matter of like, do you like Shadow's house enough to drop $1,000? Cool warped perspective tricks can only go so far, right? Next up is Guts and Griffith from Berserk. These are the Legacy Art figures. Let me see if I could find an image of them together, just to make my life a little bit easier. There's the original art, and there's the figures. The fact that this works blows my fucking mind. I have never seen a figure, or a statue, I should really call these statues, I'm just not used to it. They are 1/6 scale, so they're not gigantic. However, they're made of polystone, so they're definitely in that statue category, right? But these are absolutely breathtaking. And if I was ever going to spend like this much money on anything from Berserk, or really like any figure, I felt like it needed to be these two. So I've done that. I have actually pre-ordered both of them. However, that's not technically true because I'm fortunate enough to be in a relationship with somebody who also likes Berserk and also likes these figures as much as I do. So we're going halvesies on these figures. We didn't feel like it was fair for us to be like, I'm buying the Guts figure and you're buying the Griffith figure, because both of us just like Guts more. I mean, that makes sense. I think most people would feel that way, right? So we technically both own both of them by just kind of like splitting the price that way. So I don't know, man. Just really at a loss for words at how like crazy these two are, how like they've managed to bring such a beautiful piece of art to life. I've talked about these two a lot in the past, and I don't really know what else to say about them. Just like, I don't understand, you know? When I look at this image, it's like, how does this work? How did they pull this off so wonderfully? And I think this will be like the best thing that I own, and I'm happy that it would be something from Berserk, because who doesn't love Berserk? There is a bonus faceplate for both of the characters if you go to the store, the Prime 1 Studio store. I don't think it's necessary. I think them with their helmets on just look perfect. Not to say that the helmetless sculpts are bad by any means. They're great, but I just cannot envision displaying either of these two figures without their helmets. I'm trying to find the image of Griffith without the helmet. I lost it somewhere in this gallery. Hold on. There you go. Very pretty stuff. Now, this is a $1,200 purchase technically. The assumed shipping price is like $100 each, with like surface mail, so I won't be getting these anytime soon, but gotta save money somewhere. Also, if you buy it from the Prime 1 Studio store, you get $50 off if you buy both of them. I think you just click here and read about it. Nothing I really need to read out, but just, you buy one, you get a code or something for the other one, so just keep that in mind. $50 is $50. I mean, I guess it's a drop in the bucket when you're spending, like, at least $1,400, but it helps. Other stores carry these figures. However, I felt like playing it safe, just getting it through the official store just felt like the right thing to do. I can't wait. I honestly hope I'm still making videos by the time this figure comes out, because it's 2025. That's pretty far away. I have no idea what's going to happen in all that time. I plan to be here, but who knows? Not to get bleak, though, so let's move on. Let's go to AmiAmi now. Alright, so to start us off here, I've gathered all of the Kotobukiya figures because I want to talk about their bonus faceplates. I figured this would be more interesting than just like saying whatever I said last time, because this is new information. Now, we're going to start off with Emma Milstein, who is not only getting her glasses, which was highly requested, but also a cute hat. So this is just a great setup. She is a pretty pricey figure though, so this will not be cheap to get, but I do appreciate just this look. However, this is a special exception here, because not only are we getting this, but they actually listen to their fans, and they're giving you like a replacement wrist so that you can display the staff at a lower angle. That's kind of incredible, I gotta give it up. I doubt they watched my video complaining about it, but just like people talking to them like through comments on Twitter and whatnot, they must have heard. So yeah, love to see it. Next up, we have Ciri from The Witcher. Now, she is actually not getting a bonus faceplate, instead getting an acrylic stand, which personally I feel like is an easy skip. I have learned to like acrylic stands, but as a bonus, I don't really feel like you need it. You have a figure, and then the stand is just like what the figure looks like when it's drawn in 2D. So, I don't know. A little bit more expensive than I would have assumed, but I guess she's wearing like a lot of like leather and belts and armor and stuff like that. So understandable. I do think it looks a lot better than Geralt's, so at least there's that. Next up, we have Mitsuri from Demon Slayer, and here is her bonus faceplate, where she is extremely happy and blushing. A very cute faceplate. Kind of what I wanted when I saw this figure originally. Not necessarily sure if it fits the pose entirely, but I just feel like this looks more like her to me, compared to the more like determined look on this figure. I don't know, I feel like it's a little off here, but they definitely nailed the extra expression. And this figure is really cheap too, 14,700 yen, so could be one to look out for. Kana from Oshino Ko. Now personally, I was a little surprised at this price tag. I thought she would have been like 2,000 yen less, but the retail is 18,700. That's kind of high for like a school uniform figure. However, I still like it, love the colors on this figure, and the bonus faceplate is literally what I wanted when I talked about her a couple weeks ago. Maybe even like only a week ago. I don't even remember. I've lost track of time at this point. It's perfect. I think she is adorable with this bonus faceplate. This should just be what the figure looks like, but you will have to go out of your way if you want to pick this one up with that extra cuter face. Starscream from Transformers. This is the exact same price as Kana, despite how I feel like there's a little bit more going on. But whatever the case, her bonus faceplate is the Please Forgive Me Megatron face, and I like this one quite a bit. I just kind of adore things like this when you get like a scale figure, which typically go for like the pretty side, right? I mean, this is the Bishoujo line, but you get something very goofy to display her with instead. So while I'm not the biggest fan of this figure like I mentioned last time, I do feel like this validates it a little bit for me. One thing though, that I just realized right now, unless I'm colorblind, her lips here are purple, and on the figure they're like basic pink. Maybe they thought it looked weird on the scale, but I would like to see how that would turn out if they made them purple. Maybe like a light purple, just so it doesn't stand out too much. But anyway, our last of the Kotobukiya figures is Yuzuriha. And her bonus faceplate is skippable, in my opinion. Unless this is like her iconic face from the show. I haven't watched it yet. I'm deep into Persona, and that's the only thing I'm really doing in terms of like free time right now. So, you let me know. But I feel like this one isn't super impressive or anything. I love segues like this. Next up is the Makoto figure from Persona 5 by Mega House. This is a re-release, and one that's like right around the corner, November 2023. That is not much time, but maybe they had extra stock, who knows. Now, I don't think this is like her most exciting figure or anything, but I do kind of appreciate that I understand the reference now with the Can Crush. I feel like one of you guys now. I get it. I finally get it. I just wish her expression was maybe a little bit more fierce. I feel like that's a problem I have with a lot of her figures that I've like since looked up. They don't remind me of Makoto from the game. I think it's just like, well, I like Makoto, better buy a figure of her, but they never speak to me. But I'm too new. I can't really form a solid opinion that anybody should listen to in terms of Persona, but I just think it's nice to get these re-releases. Hey, look at that. Hinata version 3 is also getting a re-release, which I just talked about last week as being my personal pick for Hinata's best figure. Probably a price increase as well. Not a super long wait for this one either, though it's a bit more reasonable this time around. Yeah, I don't know. These like lion chakra fists are just so cool. And the fact that the flames really like go high up, they just kind of like flicker up there, is just really visually like a treat to look at, all the smoke clouds down here. Plenty of reviews exist of this figure. Just go check them out if you're interested in picking her up, just so you can get a better opinion of it, because I don't own it. I'm actually planning to talk about Gintama in the near future, so look forward to that. But I just wanted to mention very quickly that Shinsuke is getting a re-release. I've never owned this one, but I actually used to own a figure of him along with like a bunch of other Gintama figures. I used to collect this series like pretty hardcore, but I let go of most of them. I just didn't need that many Gintama figures in my collection. But that was like the early days for me, like back in 2011, 2012. Good times. I'm sure this is a price increase as well. Mega House is pretty bad about that. But it looks cool. So if you like them, go for it. Originally, I said I was going to talk about these more whenever they showed up, I think at One Hobby, but truthfully, there's really not much to say about either of these two Spirit Tail figures. I think the Toga one is a bit of a downgrade. I don't like how desaturated it is just because it's the sepia version. I do kind of like the colors of the base, but I don't think it's worth trading off the colors of her, like her outfit, her hair. It's all a bit duller, so I'm not really the biggest fan of that. And then with Mai, I actually kind of like it more, but like I said last time, the original Mai figure was heavily discounted. So I don't see a reason to spend that much extra money on this new version when the first one like dropped 10,000 yen or something like that. Gorgeous though. Love the colors of this one. Love the fact that they changed the lotus flowers to be blue as well. But I don't know, man. Gotta save your money in this hobby. I just don't feel like the color difference is worth it. I probably should have organized things a little bit better, but a lot of these figures we just saw, so we're gonna rapid fire them a little bit. Chiyo Shimada, Girls und Panzer from Wave. This one's gonna cost you 20,000 yen, which I think is pushing it for the school uniform figure. However, MILF in school uniform figure, worth more money. I think it adds up. She's really cute with that cheerful expression on the bonus faceplate. And she's got what I assume is like a paper fan, so there's a little bit going on. They're pushing it though. It might also have that like weird head tilt thing that Wave likes to do. I feel like that's completely worthless on the figures that I own that have it, but to each their own. Next up, we got this Perseus figure from Azure Lane, which I don't really like, and it's 29,000 yen. I'm not knocking the sculpt, I'm not knocking the paint job. Both of these things are going to be extremely well done, but I just don't personally like the character design that much. I do feel bad for the little Manju down here. I think that's probably my favorite part of the figure. That's or like the Herman Miller chair behind her. Maybe that's a Herman Miller, it kind of looks like it. Or it's based off one. I doubt they got the rights to call it that. But the way her like hair is draping all over it is pretty well done. And the pink is cute. You know, the pink color all over her is very cute. It's just, I don't know, her like eyes just kind of weird me out a little bit. And I don't know, it's just a design not for me, but she's great. She's great. Next up, we have this Entoma figure from Furyu. Now, I was probably gonna pre-order this until Alter announced their figure. And now I'm probably gonna skip out. I do love this design. It feels very basic. I'm sure this is just like a very generic stance for her or something, but I like it. The little maid outfit that she's got on is very cute. All the bug parts that make up, I guess, her entire character. I think she's like entirely made of bugs. I've heard like this isn't even her face. I think it's like a mask or something. Very cool. I love this design. I can't wait for the Alter figure to come out. And I do like how this figure looks. I would just rather wait to see if it drops in price or something. And then maybe I'll pick it up. We'll see. Present Kineko from Golden Head. We saw this one last time too. A cute ass figure, as most of her figures are. I really like her snaggletooth. I think that's adorable. And while I'm not the biggest fan of her colors, like I said last time, I think these warmer photos are kind of warming me up to them. Also, you get to see that her box is engraved with her name, and you get like some pattern on it, maybe floral, a little hard to see. And the ribbon does look nice too. For like 8,000 yen, really hard to beat that, unless these figures aren't good quality. I haven't seen them yet in person, but I do like what they're offering. Momo the Magician from Broccoli, 21,220 yen. Pretty pricey. The quality is definitely there. People, like I said last time, weren't happy about the changes they made to this figure, pretty much giving her underwear, because the original illustration did not have that. But I think Broccoli is a pretty good company. I do like the way they painted this figure, especially her hair and the inside of the cape that she's wearing. I just wish they tried to incorporate the other elements of the original illustration, because there was like golden coins and stuff floating all around her, but it's very basic at this point. Still looks nice, but I think the fans of this don't like it, so this might bin. I don't know. Shy Girls in Love Tsururi Amagasa from Golden Head, 21,000 yen. Now, this is the bonus version. The normal version doesn't have the winking faceplate, but it's also only like 500 yen less, so why wouldn't you get the bonus faceplate, right? They're both sold on the same store, so I think it would just be a big mistake. Yeah, this looks good. It's just a sexy lady asking you to put some lotion on her. With the wink, makes it look a little bit more provocative, I suppose. But, you know, good stuff. Nice body sculpt to her. Very alluring, right? Not much else to say about it, unfortunately. Here's a crazy one. This 1/4 scale bunny girl, Konata, is only going to cost 10,000 yen. This is made by Bear Panda, who I've never heard before, which means could be a red flag. I don't know what to say about this one. I mean, she has realistic fishnets. She's got a very glossy top like typical bunny girls do. And she's got like this really lewd face where she's sticking her tongue out. She looks very tired with the bags under her eyes. But, it's too cheap, you know? Like, this can't be good. Like, it just can't be good. I just can't believe that this figure would turn out right when they're only asking for that much. But some brave soldier will order this, and then we'll know how legit this company is. May from Guilty Gear is getting another color version. This one is primarily purple with some green, so thanks Piccolo for that one. Thanks Doc. Now, I don't need this, but I do like it. I think the color palette really does fit her. The white hair and blue eyes look pretty damn cute on her if you ask me. 22,000 yen is about what the original May figure cost. This is the bonus version that comes with an acrylic stand, so I think the other version is closer to 20,000 yen, or it should be. So yeah, consider picking her up if you like this color palette. Rin from Yudo Camp is getting a Shibireko Camp version from Hobby Stock, 19,000 yen. A very goofy looking figure, I think intentionally so, but is the joke worth the purchase, or just like the goofiness worth the purchase? It's charming in a way, but I've seen better, like, you know, poncho figures of her where she's like real snug, and just like other figures of Rin that just look way more interesting, way cuter. Personal opinion, of course, I feel like just wait for a sale on this one if you do like just how it looks. But, you know, go for it if you like it. Mythos is releasing 2 summertime figures, one for Angelina and one for Shining, both 5,000 yen. So this is clearly a budget figure. It is a 1/10 scale, and it's very reminiscent of Beach Queens from back in the day. I don't think they make those anymore. But they were a very affordable line, and so is this, especially in 2023. And they're not like basic swimsuits either. I doubt they're going to be as pretty as some of the premium Mythos figures, but in terms of design, they're great. And the photos also look great, and you can take off pieces of the swimsuit too, so there's also customization to these figures. Yeah, these look really good for 5,000 yen, and I think everybody trusts this company, so if you like Arknights, you could be in for one hell of a deal. Corn Mekon from Q's Q, just about 17,000 yen. This is a small character and in a pretty tiny swimsuit, so I think that price is a little high. They seem to have made her skin a little glossy, I guess to simulate either sweat or like, I don't know, beach or pool water. Not exactly sure which direction they're going with. I have to imagine it's just like a hot day. The corn looks great. You know what? The corn looks fantastic. Got those grill marks all around it, right? Yeah, I don't know. Just a swimsuit figure for Mekon. She's got a million figures, but it's a nice one. Rem Aqua Dress from Design Coco. I thought this was a standout at OneFest. I just really like this concept. I feel like it really works well with Rem too. They've made her hair lighter from what was originally shown at the event. I mean, I doubt they changed anything. I just think these photos are now properly lit, so we now understand the proper colors of this figure. She does come with an extra faceplate if I could find it. I don't like it as much, but considering you get 2, doesn't really matter. I still think this is definitely a figure to look out for if you are a Rem fan, and 22,000 yen isn't insane, but that's mostly because this feels very unique. Otherwise, if it was like a basic dress, I feel like they would be asking too much. Design Coco also put up their Shizuka Mikazuki figure from Zom 100, where the girl is like just drenched in sweats. I've still not watched this show since talking about this figure, despite liking the execution of just the glistening body that this girl has, but it still looks great. I still like it quite a bit. It's not too expensive either, but I've seen it cheaper on other sites. I think even like Hobby Search, Hobby Link Japan have better prices for this specific figure, so I don't think AmiAmi is the place to go unless you really like combining all your stuff. Wave had a couple more figures. This is Monica Higuchi from the Idolmaster Shiny Colors. There is this little February here, so I assume this is a Valentine's Day figure, which would make sense. She's holding a giant teddy bear plush as a gift, looking a little shy about it. Very cute, but 21,500 yen, kind of pushing it a little bit. They're also putting out the Chitose Kurosaki Plus figure. Is that how you say her name? Either way, 26,450 yen. Very expensive, a little bit more elaborate with the design of her dress and whatnot. Love the face on this figure for sure. I've learned since seeing this for the first time that apparently this character is just actually a vampire and not just necessarily like cosplaying as one. So that makes this a little bit more fun. That faceplate is great too. Like, I would be down to buy this, but not at that price. So maybe in the future. Super Bunny by Hobby Sakura, a 1/6 scale for 21,000 yen, which I do feel like is a pretty fair price. She is simple, there's nothing going on with the base, but she does have like a rather large pistol in her hands, some strange like robotic bunny ears, I'm not exactly sure what's going on up there, and then she's got some nice sneakers. Also, her body is just like covered in latex for the most part, very like glossy, skin-tight suit, very apparent from the back of this figure, which I think a lot of you guys will appreciate. And I like the design of the heels. I guess you can't necessarily call these sneakers anymore, but they got like little drills on them. So yeah, pretty cool. Reimu from Furyu is in a situation where I feel like this is technically a very pretty figure, and I like the flower focus that's going on here. Flowers on the dress, on the ribbon, like legitimate flowers all over the design, and even the base is a little flower, but I just feel like this figure is kind of outclassed at this point just by like the other Reimu figures that exist right now. If you're really into flowers, I can see this one kind of topping the list. But for me, when I have the Good Smile Company one, the Toho Vania one is coming out soon, the Solar Rain figure looks really cool, I just don't really understand the place that this one has, but I guess there's a ton of Reimu figures, so it's fine if another exists. All 3 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal figures from Amakuni are now up for pre-order. You got Yuma, you got Astral, and you got Tori. I do think they look good, just like all of the other Amakuni Yu-Gi-Oh! Figures that have come out so far, some of which I need to get around to unboxing for you guys, but I don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. It's past my time. Not that I'm against watching it, I just never have. Their designs are a little bit too out there for me, though. I don't really see myself picking up any of these 3, but Tori's cute. I just wish they would make a girl that I'm more familiar with, like Taya or Alexis. Shaltier is getting a figure from Kai Tendo, and it's going to cost you 28,000 yen. Now, the pre-order window is seemingly closed, but I think that's okay. I don't think this figure is really worth that price point, or really worth picking up in general. My biggest complaint just comes down to the complete lack of shading all over this figure, but especially her hair, how it just blends in with her skin, but even on its own just doesn't really look very appealing. A lot of the colors on this figure are very drab, and it's a bit unfortunate, and I wish they just handled this figure a little bit differently. I also hate how there's like literally no definition for her mouth. It's just like that flat pink. I feel like that's so cheap looking. But yeah, I don't know. It's a shame because the design of this figure is nice, so it feels like they're wasting something here. But if they're gonna ask this much, then it's not worth worrying about, in my opinion. As far as bunny figures go, I did forget to talk about the Reno Bonino 1/4 scale from Union Creative. This is an Azure Lane bunny, which means that the design is way better than most of the bunny girls that Freeing typically makes. This is like a collaboration with Freeing, right? But I never hear people talk about any of these figures outside of New Jersey, and that's mostly just because she is enormous with her hair. But this design's great, you know? The adjustable stool, the fact that her heels are off, she's holding the drink, which looks very colorful. I like how the outfit is a bit more stylish. Like, I don't know, I find this to be pretty appealing. But maybe the quality sucks because it's Union Creative. Can't say for sure, but I would like to know. So if you've bought any of these figures, let me know in the comments below. Elena knits one-piece dress version from Furyu, only 16,000 yen. Very surprising considering the company. I like her cheeky expression. I think that does sell me on the figure a little bit. And this is certainly a figure for the feet fellas out there. And I'll represent you every now and then. I can understand how hard times are. I got your back. Don't worry about it. Urza Scarlet Seduction Armor Special Finish from Union Creative. This one is 21,300 yen. And this part of the sword is so stupid looking to me. I understand it's supposed to be this way, but because it's a figure and not like from the anime, it just looks like it's actually scribbled on with marker. I can't stand it. But, you know, Urza herself actually looks fantastic. I'm actually surprised that this is one of the better versions of Urza I've seen in figure form, and I'm really just talking about like her face. It looks so spot on to me. I think she looks great, and I'm not gonna lie, pretty sexy too. Especially the bottom half of this figure. I'm kind of surprised that Union Creative managed to pull her off so well. Here is the Tower of Fantasy Nemesis Venus version from Rebos. This one is a 1/7 scale for 24,000 yen, which really isn't a bad price considering all that you get. Now, I don't really like the design of this cat. Feels a little bit like they're ripping off of a very specific game with this guy, but a lot of these games do have cute mascots. I just don't find it to be particularly cute. However, the giant energy cannons up there and the fact that her hair is so like long and voluminous, it's got a nice flow to it. And the way they like did her suit looks very good. The metallic paint, just like the mechanical detail. Not very sure what this IP specifically is. I remember somebody, the last time we saw this figure in the comments, was actually pretty excited about this, so seems like you're in good hands. The prototype so far looks pretty fantastic if you ask me. Bochi the Rock yet again. This is the palm-sized Hitori-chan figure from Mega House, only going to cost you 6,500 yen, but, you know, pretty tiny figure, right? But that's okay. They're advertising it correctly. They're not trying to rip you off. Everything's honky-dory. This one comes with 2 expressions. You get the anxious faceplate and one where she's a bit broken. She can't really process things anymore, right? Which I do like, you know, as much as I do adore the Good Smile Company figure. This is another side of Itori that I like quite a bit, which is why I pre-ordered her Nendoroid as well. You know, I guess the world can't have enough Hitori figures, so I like that they made this, and the fact that you get the guitar case as well, I think makes this a pretty good value. Certainly feels like a better value than the Anya figure from Spy Family that they tried to sell for like a very similar price. So this feels okay. Here's another one for you. This is the Granblue Fantasy Normaya, the black butterfly version from AnyGift. This one's gonna cost you 38,000 yen. And we did see this at OneFest. However, didn't look the best. The photos that we got just were a little dull, but the colors look so much better here. And it's way easier to appreciate this grandiose base as a result. So I'm totally warmed up to this figure, despite how I don't really have any investment in Granblue. However, what we didn't know and what we now have learned is that her butt is absolutely ridiculous on this sculpt. Like, look at the arch on her back, man. That ain't normal. That's like not correct. But it's rather thick, and I think that's all the people want. So whatever. You know what? She actually does look very pretty. I like the little shine on her hair there. Her eyes are great. The little lip gloss on her mouth. I mean, come on. Like, come on. Okay, whatever. I mean, I don't want to harp on it. It's just a little funny to me, even though usually I'm down with that kind of stuff. But it just feels out of place, you know? It just looks like someone told AnyGift to, like, just plump her up a little bit, and they went slightly overboard. Here's a figure I don't see many people talking about. This is the Rampaging Twin Tail Arisa, 1/6 scale by BB Buttons, another company I'm not very familiar with, but kind of love this figure. This one's going to cost you 23,000 yen, which I think is fair. You know, 1/6 scale is kind of big, and the outfit's rather elaborate. I love the trendy coat that she's got on. The colors of it, white and pink, look great, especially in contrast with the black suits. Bunny outfit, it kind of does look like a bunny suit with like a sheer material on top, but whatever the case may be, I like it, you know? She's got a bunch of pins in her hair just to make it a little bit more unique. I do like her twin tail sculpt. The color of her hair just in general is very like eye-catching. She's got a giant pistol hanging off of a lanyard, and her face is crazy. It's a bit yandere, right? But I really like the face masks that she comes with. This would be the way I displayed the figure if I were to buy it. It's an unhinged look either way, and I do adore it quite a bit. Probably not picking this one up because I'm spending a lot of money lately and I need to buy some new equipment. So we cut corners where we can, and OC Girl is not necessarily a must-get, unfortunately. But I would recommend, you know, unless this company is no good, but unfortunately I don't have that information. Next up is the Azur Lane Cheshire Hugging Pillow cover illustration version. What I like about this one is that you actually get the option to either display her laying down or upwards. And while this pose certainly makes more sense laying down, I think it also would look kind of stupid at the same time unless you like raised it up a little bit. So I do like that you do get the option there. If you have a perfect layout like this, then I suppose it's fine, but it might be hard to appreciate it when she's laying down completely, unless you're like literally like staring down at her. So I don't know. Not really my favorite type of figure. She looks very cute though. She's barely wearing her panties. If you look from the back of the figure, you could get a clear shot of her butt. Nice and curvy, as we all love. But yeah, I suppose you also get this like rather generic piece of cloth. I don't even think that looks very good. Probably could have tried a little bit harder in that aspect. Hopefully the actual like disc of the base looks nice though, and hopefully they ditch the golden rod. They typically do, so I wouldn't worry about that. Doesn't look bad though. I think she does look rather cute, and I haven't seen a figure with like this kind of expression in a while, so I do like it. Alright, so there's a couple more figures after this, but I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. What you might not realize when I make these videos is that I'm cutting out a lot of bullshit. And when I say bullshit, I just mean like me flubbing my words or me saying something stupid, doing a whole nother take again. So even if this video is like an hour long, I probably have been sitting here for like 3 or 4, and I'm not even joking. So I might stop here, and I might just show the rest, and I apologize for that. But I want to especially talk about this figure because I really like it, and I didn't end up pre-ordering it when it was like the optimal time to do so. And what I mean by that is that Otaku Mode had like a crazy good promotion going on, where I think there was a ton of like coins to earn by buying this figure, but also there was like a birthday Miku coupon going around for like $31 off, which is like a great time to buy this specific figure. But I didn't end up doing so. I think this is such a cool interpretation of Miku, the way her eyes are designed, her fangs, her goggles, just like the outfit that she's wearing, the colors in general. It's amazing. I think this is one of my favorite Miku designs I've like ever seen. And it has a color palette that's so like perfect for me. And she's sitting on this like one big ass speaker, and it lights up. It's got a bunch of like stickers on it. She's got the big megaphone in her hand. I pretty much like this from every single angle. But the closer you look at this figure, it starts to fall apart a little bit. The biggest point against this figure, I feel, are her twin tails. The design is crazy cool, but I just feel like everything outside of her bangs looks really flat, and there's just so much of it. For this much money, I feel like they could have done a little bit better, because look how nice the front of her hair looks. It's got like multi-colors in it. It's got a little bit of shine. It looks perfect. And they didn't try at all in that aspect for any of the rest of her hair. So I feel a little bit let down there. The other part that really kicks me in the balls is the chain around her neck. This looks like it belongs to like a McDonald's toy. It looks so cheap. It's just such a dull gray, and they filled in the chain so that it's like one giant blob of plastic. Like, I don't know, man. That's like way too apparent considering it's like right at her chest, like right in the center of the figure. I don't know. They could have definitely made that look more like an actual chain, but they didn't. They like didn't try at all there. I also think the string of the megaphone is a little bit chunky, probably the least of my concerns, but that is something to complain about. But it's like the design is really still compelling me to get this at some point. But considering I missed like the insanely good deal, not gonna worry about it right now. Considering there's so many Miku figures, I feel like they have chances to bin. So might pick it up in the future. I really want to see how this one turns out. I will absolutely keep my eyes out on it, but right now I just couldn't pull that trigger. And I really shouldn't, considering so many of these figures just bargain bin, and so many of them are so expensive. So you really gotta love what you pre-order, right? And I just wasn't loving it after inspecting this figure a little bit more. But I think I'm gonna end it here. For the remaining figures, I'm just gonna like highlight them right now. I'm gonna show them on screen just so you're aware of what's coming out. Sorry, I couldn't get around to it this time around, but I think I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, and I really don't want to delay this video any longer. Especially for that Chun-Li figure, the pre-order window closes in like 2 days, and it is a limited figure. So while I think, you know, Good Smile Company will carry it, the shipping is going to be way more. So I feel a little guilty about that. It's just, you know, the way it works. I want to make other videos, but I know people like this series. It's just kind of hard to find time to do everything. However, appreciate you guys watching this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you found something you plan to pick up. And if not, that's okay. There's always next month, and it's not a race. You don't have to always buy stuff just because other people are, right? But that's going to do it for me. I'll see you guys very soon for the next video. Most likely an unboxing video. I have some more stuff to show off to you guys, and I hope you look forward to that. But until then, I'll see you later. Bye.